Have you ever felt that strange chill when a movie whispers, "This really happened"? Tonight, we're stepping into a world where classic horror and true events collide, stories so unsettling they linger long after the screen fades. As we move through these 10 iconic films, I want you to stay close, because some of these tales are darker than they first appear. And if you love discovering hidden truths behind legendary horror classics, don't forget to like the video, share it with a friend, and subscribe for more chilling journeys. 1. The Exorcist, 1973. A young girl's terrifying descent into possession pulls everyone around her into a battle with something far darker than they ever imagined. But before we step deeper, tell me, have you ever wondered what a family truly feels when the impossible starts happening inside their own home? What makes The Exorcist so haunting isn't just the spinning heads, chilling whispers, or the way the air seems to freeze when Regan enters the room. No, it's the quiet moments. The pauses when her mother stands there, desperate, helpless, wondering if the child she once held is still somewhere inside that twisted shell. And that's where this story grips you, not with screams, but with the fear of losing someone to a force you can't touch, can't see, and can't understand. Imagine being in that house, hearing footsteps in the hallway when you know no one else is awake. Would you dare open the door? Or would you stay still, pretending you heard nothing at all? That's the hook of this film. It plays with the things we think we wouldn't believe in, until they start breathing in the dark beside us. And the craziest part? You and I both know this movie wasn't born from pure imagination. The real case behind it, Roland Doe, a boy whose life spiraled into unexplainable violence and impossible phenomena, adds a weight to every scene. When the lights flicker, when the bed shakes, when Regan's voice changes, suddenly it doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like a memory someone wishes they could forget. Tell me, do you think evil, true evil, can enter a home this way? Or do you believe the human mind can break so deeply that reality reshapes itself around the pain? I really want to hear your thoughts, because everyone who watches The Exorcist seems to come away with a different fear. As you watch, pay attention to the priest's trembling hands, the mother's silent breakdowns, and the way hope is treated like something fragile, constantly slipping, constantly crushed. It's in those fragile moments that the movie becomes more than horror. It becomes a confession that sometimes the scariest battles are the ones you fight when no one believes you. So before we move on, tell me in the comments, do you think you'd stay brave in a house like this? Or would you run the moment something whispers your name? And hey, if you're enjoying this journey into the true stories behind legendary horror classics, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps keep these terrifying tales alive, and trust me, the next film on this list is only going to get darker. 2. The Amityville Horror, 1979. A family moves into a beautiful riverside home, only to discover that something inside those walls refuses to let them live in peace, and trust me, the house doesn't wait long before showing its true face. If The Exorcist made you fear what could possess a person, the Amityville Horror steps in like a chilling reminder that sometimes entire houses carry their own hunger. And the strangest part? As soon as you hear that eerie thud echoing down the corridor, you can almost sense that this story isn't done testing your nerves. It's as if the moment you leave Regan's room behind, this cursed home is already waiting with the front door cracked open, inviting you to come closer. Picture this. A family hopeful for a fresh start, new home, new chapter, new dreams. But on the very first night, the air shifts, lights flicker, doors slam, and something whispers from the shadows, as if welcoming them, or warning them. Have you ever walked into a place that felt wrong the moment you stepped inside, even before you could explain why? That's the beating heart of this movie, a quiet, suffocating dread that builds moment by moment. What makes Amityville so haunting isn't just the supernatural distortions or the chilling apparitions, but the way the family slowly unravels under the pressure of something they cannot see. The father's temper darkens, the mother's hope weakens, and the children begin noticing things no child should ever have to understand. It's a house that feels alive, watching them, learning them, deciding how to break them. And the worst part? This story isn't spun from fantasy. It's tied to the real-life Lutz family and the brutal Defio murders that soaked the house in tragedy long before the film ever existed. Let me ask you, do you think a house can hold on to the memories of what happened inside it? Or do you believe people bring their own fears with them, feeding the darkness until it grows teeth? I'd genuinely love to hear what you think, because everyone who watches this movie seems to draw their own line between haunting and history. As the film unfolds, every creak of the floorboards, every slam of a window, every whisper in the dead of night tightens the grip around the family and around you as a viewer. You might find yourself leaning forward, trying to catch the smallest sound, wondering if you'd last even a single night in that house. Be honest, would you stay? Or would you run before the sun even rises? Before we move to the next film, drop your thoughts in the comments. And if these true story horrors are pulling you deeper into the shadows, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Trust me, things are about to get even more unsettling. 3. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. A group of friends stumbles upon a remote farmhouse, only to learn that the most terrifying monsters aren't always supernatural. And sometimes the real horror carries a chainsaw. Trust me, this one won't give you time to breathe. After surviving the haunted corridors of Amityville, you'd think we'd earned a moment to rest. But no, this next story doesn't creep toward you like a shadow. It charges, roaring, screaming, tearing through the silence like it's hungry. And that's exactly why the Texas Chainsaw Massacre hits so differently. It doesn't feel like a ghost story or a mystery. It feels like a nightmare you could accidentally walk into on a wrong turn down a lonely country road. There's something unsettling about the sunlit terror in this film. Unlike most horror movies that wait for nightfall, this one doesn't hide behind darkness. The danger is out in the open, raw, exposed, merciless. You can almost feel the heat of the Texas sun, the dry wind brushing past your skin, and that uneasy instinct whispering, "Something isn't right here, turn back." Have you ever had that feeling in real life? That moment when your gut tells you to leave, even when nothing bad has happened yet. That's the hook this story digs in with. And then, Leatherface appears, not like a villain stepping into a spotlight, but like a force of nature, sudden, brutal, unstoppable. What's terrifying isn't just the mask or the chainsaw. It's the way he moves. Frantic yet purposeful, as if he's following rituals carved into him long before you ever meet him. The horror becomes almost intimate, because you're not facing a demon or a cursed object, you're facing a family, twisted by isolation, violence, and a darkness that feels too human to dismiss as fiction. But here's what freezes your blood. The movie draws its roots from the real-life crimes of Ed Gein, a man whose actions were so grotesque they reshaped American horror. Furniture made of human remains, masks stitched from skin, details so unnatural you wish they were invented. And I'm curious, do you think stories like this are scarier because they come from real violence? Or does that make them too disturbing to watch? I'd love to hear your thoughts, because everyone has their own limit when it comes to horror grounded in reality. As the film spirals deeper into chaos, every scream, every desperate sprint, every echo of that roaring chainsaw claws at your nerves. You're not just watching the characters run, you're imagining how you would survive. Would you hide, fight, freeze? Tell me in the comments. What would you do if Leatherface burst through a door right in front of you? And if these true story nightmares are pulling you further in, remember to like, share, and subscribe. The next film will drag you into the mind of a killer, and trust me, it only gets darker from here. 4. Psycho, 1960. A lonely motel owner hides a darkness shaped by obsession, secrecy, and a fractured mind, and the moment you step into his world, you'll feel the walls closing in. Don't blink, because this story has a way of watching you back. Coming off the raw violence of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you might expect the next horror to hit with the same brutality. But Psycho chooses a different path, one that sneaks under your skin instead of tearing through it. It's quieter, colder, more patient. Instead of chasing you with a chainsaw, it invites you in with a soft voice, a nervous smile, and a polite offer of shelter from the storm. And somehow, that gentleness feels even more dangerous. There's something unsettling about Norman Bates from the moment you meet him. Maybe it's the way he tilts his head, or the sadness in his eyes that seems too deep for someone so young. But the real hook, the thing that holds you, is the fragile charm he carries. The kind that makes you wonder whether he's a victim of his life, or the architect of something far darker. Have you ever met someone who seemed kind on the surface but left you with a lingering unease you couldn't explain? That's the feeling this movie plays with. And trust me, it never lets go. The Bates Motel itself is a character, silent halls, peeling wallpaper, a house looming above like a guardian that never sleeps. You can almost hear its breath, feel its memories pressing through the walls. Each room holds its own secrets. And as Marion Crane arrives seeking refuge, you sense the story tightening around her like invisible hands. There's a moment, right before everything changes, when the world feels almost safe. But that's the trap. Psycho thrives on the split second between comfort and terror. And here's where reality twists in. The film's chilling essence was inspired by Ed Gein, the same real-life murderer tied to Leatherface. But unlike the brutality of Texas Chainsaw, this story digs into the psychological rot beneath the surface. Gein's obsession with his mother, his warped sense of identity, his inability to separate love from control, it all bleeds into Norman's character. The result is a horror that feels disturbingly intimate. So let me ask you, which scares you more, the monster you can see coming, or the one who smiles at you before he breaks? As the narrative spirals downward, every conversation, every hesitant glance, every creak of the house builds toward one of the most iconic moments in horror history. You know the one, and even if you've seen it before, it still feels like a punch you never quite brace for. Before we continue to the next terrifying true story tale, tell me in the comments, do you think Norman Bates is a monster, or a tragic soul swallowed by his own mind? And if you're feeling the chills yet, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The next story will test what you believe about hauntings, and who they choose to follow. 5. The Conjuring, 2013. A family faces a terrifying presence in their new farmhouse. And when things spiral beyond what any normal person could endure, the Warrens step in, only to discover that the darkness here isn't just haunting the house, it's hunting the people inside it. Stay with me, because this story pulls you in before you even realize it. Leaving the twisted corridors of Norman Bates's world, we step into a different kind of fear, one that doesn't hide behind a person, but spreads through an entire home like a living shadow. If Psycho whispered its horror through a fractured mind, The Conjuring roars with something ancient, patient, and disturbingly aware. And the moment you enter that creaking farmhouse with the Perron family, you can feel the air shift, as if the walls themselves know you're there. There's something deeply human about the way this story begins. A family searching for peace, for a new start, for sunlight after too many dark days. But sometimes, as you know, the places that look the most peaceful hold the loudest secrets. And here's where the hook tightens. The house doesn't wait for nightfall to reveal its intentions. Strange bruises appear on the mother. Doors open on their own. A child begins sleepwalking into places she shouldn't be. And you, watching from the edges of this story, wonder when the line between curiosity and danger will snap. What's chilling about this film isn't just the paranormal events, it's the way the darkness seems to study the family. Every sound, every shadow, every moment of silence feels intentional, as if something hidden is choosing its moves with unsettling care. Have you ever felt like someone, or something, was watching you even when you were alone? That creeping sensation is what this movie breathes into every frame. Then come Ed and Lorraine Warren, stepping into the story with a calm certainty that contrasts the chaos around them. Lorraine's sensitivity, Ed's unwavering determination, they bring a fragile hope to a home drowning in fear. But even they sense immediately that this is no simple haunting. When Lorraine first closes her eyes and listens to the house, it feels like she's opening a door the family never should have touched. And that raises a question for you. Do you believe people like the Warrens truly connect with the supernatural? Or are they simply brave enough to face darkness most of us would run from? I'd love to hear your thoughts. As the presence grows stronger, the story builds with a suffocating weight. Furniture moves on its own. A child is dragged across the floor. A mother begins losing herself piece by piece, pulled towards something ancient that wants her as its vessel. And with every passing moment, you can feel the stakes tightening. It's no longer about a haunted house, it's about a family fighting for their souls. Before we move on to the next chilling tale, tell me, would you stay in a house like this if it meant protecting the people you love? Or would you take them and run, no matter what followed you out the door? And if you're still with me in these shadows, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The next story will take us into a haunting that feels painfully personal, one born not from demons, but from deep, lingering sorrow. 6. The Changeling, 1980. After losing his wife and daughter, a grieving composer moves into an old mansion, only to discover that he isn't living there alone. And whatever shares the house with him has been waiting a very long time. And trust me, once you hear the first echo in those empty halls, you'll feel something watching too. Coming from the violent chaos and demonic torment of The Conjuring, this next story shifts the atmosphere, not softer, not safer, but quieter in a way that settles under your skin. The Changeling doesn't jump at you or scream in your face. Instead, it whispers, it waits, it lets grief open the door before the haunting even begins. And that's what makes it so deeply unsettling. The horror feels personal, almost intimate, like it knows exactly where your fears live. There's something hauntingly beautiful about the way this film starts. A man shattered by loss, searching for a place where the world might leave him alone for a moment. But have you ever noticed how empty houses seem to amplify loneliness? One creak becomes a voice. One cold draft feels like a hand brushing past you. That's the hook. The way the mansion almost seems to sense his pain and respond to it. Maybe you've felt that before. That eerie feeling that a place is somehow aware of you. The mansion itself is enormous, elegant, and unsettling in the way only old homes can be. Every corridor feels too long, every room too still, and soon, small things begin to happen. Sounds that don't belong. Objects moving on their own. A ball bouncing down a staircase as if a child you cannot see is trying to play. The ghost here isn't a creature of rage or chaos. It feels wounded, desperate, longing for someone to finally listen. But that almost makes it more frightening. Because pain has a way of twisting even the most innocent spirits into something dangerous. As the composer digs deeper, he uncovers a hidden story, a child robbed of life and justice. And the house, with all its secrets, begins pushing him to finish what was started decades ago. That raises a question for you. Do you think spirits linger because they can't let go? Or because they need someone living to carry their truth forward? Your answer might say something about how you view the world beyond death. The deeper he goes, the more the haunting shifts from eerie to urgent. Doors slam, visions flash, the mansion roars with a fury born from betrayal. Grief meets grief, his loss colliding with the spirit's tragedy until both feel inseparable. And suddenly the haunting doesn't feel like a random curse. It feels inevitable, like something the house has been saving for him all along. Before we move forward, I want you to tell me, would you stay in a place like this if you felt a child's spirit reaching out for help? Or would you run the moment the ball rolled down the stairs? And if you're still holding on to this journey through real-life-inspired terror, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The next story will drag you into a haunting that doesn't ask for sympathy, it demands survival. 7. The Entity, 1982. A woman becomes the target of a violent, unseen force that invades her home, and as the terror escalates, you'll begin to question whether the real horror is what we can see, or what we can't. Stay with me, because this story will crawl under your skin in ways you never expect. Leaving the quiet sorrow of the Changeling, we now enter a horror that is raw, relentless, and disturbingly intimate. The Entity doesn't rely on creepy old houses or ancient curses. Its terror is personal. It claws at the very fabric of one person's life, invading spaces that should feel safe. Imagine the very place you lay your head at night turning against you. The walls that once held comfort becoming a theater for unspeakable torment. Have you ever felt unsafe in a place that should have felt like home? That uneasy, creeping sensation is exactly what this film captures, and it lingers long after the credits roll. Carol, the protagonist, begins noticing small disturbances, objects moving, strange sensations, but soon these escalate into violent, unimaginable attacks. And here's the hook. The more she tries to rationalize what's happening, the more inescapable it becomes. You start to feel her frustration, her fear, her isolation. Can you imagine being trapped in your own home by something invisible? Something that refuses to let you rest? It's a fear that cuts deeper than any jump scare because it touches the most vulnerable part of us, our personal sanctuary. What's even more chilling is the way the movie forces you to confront belief versus reality. Are we seeing supernatural forces? Or is the mind capable of creating horrors so vivid they feel undeniable? Have you ever doubted your own senses in the middle of the night? Questioning what's real and what's imagination? This is where the entity excels. It makes the impossible feel possible. The story is based on the real-life experiences of Carla Moran, whose encounters were studied by parapsychologists and documented with detailed reports. That knowledge adds a layer of unease that lingers with the audience. Every slamming door, every invisible grip, every nightmarish attack feels plausible because it actually happened. And let me ask you, does knowing a story is true make it scarier? Or does it make your mind try even harder to deny it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I really want to hear your perspective. As the film builds toward its terrifying climax, tension grows with every frame. The attacks become unpredictable, the fear more consuming, and you start rooting for Carol not just to survive, but to reclaim the spaces that were stolen from her. You feel her exhaustion, her courage, and the terrifying vulnerability that comes when the world seems determined to break you. Before we move to the next haunting tale, I want to remind you, if this story has you gripping the edge of your seat, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. The next film will plunge us into a haunting that blends home, family, and sorrow into a terror you won't soon forget. 8. The Haunting in Connecticut, 2009. A family moves into a house meant for healing, only to find that the walls themselves are steeped in pain, and some of that pain refuses to stay buried. Don't look away, because once you step inside, the house starts speaking directly to you. Coming from the relentless, personal terror of the entity, we now step into a haunting that blends grief, hope, and fear in ways that feel painfully real. The Perrons, Warrens, and the solitary composer all dealt with spirits that intruded on their lives. But the Snedeker family faces a house that seems to remember suffering, that thrives on the sorrow of those who enter. Have you ever walked into a place that gave you chills, even in broad daylight? That sensation, this subtle, creeping unease, is what The Haunting in Connecticut captures so masterfully. The family moves in seeking treatment for their son's illness, believing the house to be a sanctuary. But very quickly, small disturbances begin to appear, objects moved, shadows crossing hallways, whispers that seem to come from nowhere. The tension builds in quiet, insidious waves. It's the kind of horror that doesn't scream at you, it teases. It lingers, it coils around your mind. And here's the hook. What if the very place you trusted to heal you is secretly working against you? As the haunting escalates, you begin to feel the desperation of the family. The mother clings to her children, the father struggles to believe, and the son experiences terrors that seem impossible to describe. You can almost feel their fear, the way it settles in your chest and doesn't let go. Would you be able to comfort a child knowing that something unseen is actively trying to harm them? Or would you run, abandoning the house in search of safety? I want to hear your thoughts, because the tension here forces everyone to confront their own sense of courage. What makes this story truly chilling is that it's based on the real experiences of the Snedeker family, who lived in a former funeral home turned residence. Imagine living surrounded by the echoes of grief, the remnants of death, and the lingering memories of those who never left. Every corner of that house becomes a character, every room a trap, every sound a message, and that makes the terror both intimate and universal, because it's not just about ghosts, but about the weight of history pressing down on the living. Before we continue to the next horrifying tale, think about this. Would you stay in a house knowing its past? Or would you leave the moment the first unexplained sound occurs? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious how brave you'd be. And if this journey into true story horrors has you hooked, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The next film takes us into the wilderness, where isolation and human evil collide in ways that are terrifyingly real. 9. Wolf Creek, 2005. Three backpackers find themselves stranded in the remote Australian outback, only to discover that the real terror isn't the wilderness, it's the man lurking in it. Brace yourself, because once you enter this world, there's no turning back. After the haunted walls of Connecticut, the terror shifts from the supernatural to the raw, unrelenting reality of human evil. Wolf Creek is a story that forces you to confront a primal fear, that sometimes the monsters we fear most are not in the shadows or beyond the grave, they walk among us. The isolation of the outback amplifies every sound, every footstep, every snap of a twig becomes a threat. Have you ever felt that spine-tingling awareness when you're completely alone in an unfamiliar place? That's exactly the sensation this film delivers. And it doesn't let go. The three travelers start their journey filled with adventure and laughter, unaware that the beauty of the desert conceals something far more sinister. And here's the hook. The moment they meet the man who will become their nightmare, you know things are already out of control. It's not just the brutality that terrifies, it's how ordinary he seems at first, blending seamlessly into the harsh landscape, waiting for the right moment to strike. That tension, the calm before the storm, grips you in a way that few horror films can. What's truly chilling about Wolf Creek is its foundation in reality. Inspired by the crimes of serial killer Ivan Milat, the film doesn't just scare with visuals, it terrifies with plausibility. Every choice the characters make, every wrong turn they take, feels believable, and that makes the fear intensely personal. You can't help but imagine yourself in their shoes, wondering if you'd survive the relentless hunter. I have to ask, if you were alone in the middle of nowhere, and someone with no conscience approached you, would you try to fight, hide, or run? Share your thoughts. I'm genuinely curious how you'd react. The suspense builds as the backpacker's situation grows increasingly desperate. The outback, which once promised freedom and adventure, becomes a maze of terror. The cinematography doesn't just show danger, it immerses you in it. You can almost taste the dust, feel the sun beating down, hear the predator's quiet steps closing in. Every moment is designed to make your heart race, to make you question the safety of even the most mundane surroundings. Before we move to the final story on our list, think about this. What scares you more, the supernatural that you can't see, or the human evil that you know could exist in the world around you? If Wolf Creek has you gripping your seat, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The last film on our list is a chilling reminder that sometimes the horrors closest to home are the ones we least expect. 10. The Girl Next Door, 2007. A seemingly ordinary suburban home hides unimaginable cruelty. As two sisters endure horrors and wear a mask or lurk in shadows, it can live next door. Disguised in normalcy, the story immediately grabs you because it challenges a belief many of us hold, that our homes, our neighborhoods that should feel familiar. Have you ever wondered how you would act if faced with evil disguised as normality? How else would act? Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to know how you would respond in a situation that tests morality, courage, and the limits of human endurance to explore together.